Maya Chen sat in the back corner of the galactic diplomacy classroom, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the current territorial disputes between the major species. While her classmates from various worlds chatted excitedly about their upcoming field assignment to the neutral station Kepler-7, she remained silent, taking meticulous notes in her worn leather journal. "Miss Chen," Professor Valdris called out, his blue tentacles swaying as he gestured toward the star map. "What are your thoughts on humanity's role in the current Andromedal conflict?" Maya looked up briefly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Humans prefer peaceful solutions when possible, Professor. We're still relatively new to galactic politics." A few snickers came from the Zeltharian students, their crystalline forms shimmering with what Maya had learned was their equivalent of laughter. Orcs, the largest among them, spoke up with his typical arrogance. "Humans are weak pacifists. Your species only joined the Galactic Council because you needed protection from real threats." Maya's grip tightened slightly on her pen, but her expression remained neutral. "Perhaps," she said quietly, returning her attention to her notes. The truth was far more complex than any of her classmates could imagine. Maya wasn't just another human student studying interspecies relations at the prestigious Academy of Worlds. She was Maya Chen, former captain of the Human Defense Corps' most classified unit, the Phantom Brigade. At 26, she had already commanded more covert operations than most military officers saw in their entire careers. 3 years ago, she had requested transfer to civilian life after what the military files called the Centauri incident. What those files didn't mention was that Maya had single-handedly prevented an entire star system from falling to the Vorthan Empire by infiltrating their command ship and systematically dismantling their invasion fleet from within. The psychological toll of spending 6 months deep undercover, watching as the Vorthans tortured prisoners while she maintained her cover, had been devastating. The Galactic Academy had seemed like the perfect place to disappear. Here, she was just another young human trying to understand the complex web of interstellar politics. Her professors saw a quiet, studious girl who preferred books to social interaction. Her classmates saw someone too shy to stand up for herself, let alone her species. After class, Maya gathered her materials slowly, waiting for the room to empty. She preferred to avoid the hallway crowds, where conversations inevitably turned to the growing tensions between the major powers. The Vorthan Empire had been unusually quiet lately, which concerned those who understood their patterns. The Andromedal Alliance was fracturing under internal pressure. Even the peaceful Etherian Collective had begun militarizing their outer colonies. As she finally left the classroom, Maya nearly collided with Zara Moonwhisper, an Etherian whose translucent skin glowed with a soft blue light when she was excited. Unlike most of her species, Zara had always been kind to Maya, perhaps sensing something different about the quiet human. "Maya, I've been looking for you," Zara said, her melodic voice carrying the characteristic harmonic undertones of her people. "Have you heard about the field assignment? We're going to Kepler-7 for 3 weeks of practical diplomacy training." Maya nodded. "Professor Valdris mentioned it. I was hoping we could be partners for the project. I know you understand the political situations better than you let on in class." Zara's large, multifaceted eyes studied Maya's face. "There's something about you that's different from other humans I've met. You see patterns others miss." Before Maya could respond, Korex and 2 of his Zeltharian friends approached them. Standing nearly 8 feet tall with their crystalline exoskeletons, they cast long shadows over the 2 girls. "The human and the glowworm," Korex said, his voice resonating through his crystal structure. "How fitting that the 2 weakest species would pair together. Perhaps you can discuss flower arrangements while the real species handle actual diplomacy." Maya felt the familiar cold settle over her mind, the same emotional detachment that had kept her alive during countless dangerous missions. Her voice remained steady and quiet. "We should go, Zara." But as they turned to leave, Corex's massive hand shot out, gripping Maya's shoulder with enough force to bruise. "I wasn't finished speaking, human. On Kepler-7, you'll learn what real power looks like. The Zeltharian delegation doesn't appreciate being ignored." Maya looked down at the crystalline hand on her shoulder, then up at Corex's glowing eyes. For just a moment, something flickered in her gaze, something that made the Zeltharian's grip loosen slightly. "Please remove your hand," she said softly. Corex's friends laughed, their crystal bodies chiming like broken bells. "Or what, little human? Will you file a complaint with the dean?" Maya's expression never changed, but she reached up slowly and placed her small hand over Corex's massive fingers. To anyone watching, it looked like she was simply trying to remove his grip. What they couldn't see was how she positioned her thumb against a specific joint in his crystalline structure, or how the slight pressure she applied hit the exact frequency needed to cause microfractures in his exoskeleton. Corex's laughter cut off abruptly as pain shot through his hand. He jerked away from Maya, staring at his fingers in confusion. There were tiny cracks spreading through the crystal, barely visible but painful enough to make him step backward. "How did you—" he began, but Maya was already walking away with Zara, who looked back and forth between them in bewilderment. "What just happened?" Zara asked, when they were safely down the hall. "I'm not sure," Maya replied, though her mind was already analyzing the potential complications. She had acted on instinct, using skills she was supposed to have left behind. Corex wasn't seriously injured. The cracks would heal within hours, but he would remember, and he would wonder how a quiet human girl had known exactly where to apply pressure to damage Zeltharian crystal. That evening, in her small dormitory room, Maya sat at her desk reviewing the assignment details for Kepler-7. The neutral station served as a meeting point for representatives from dozens of species, making it perfect for students to observe real diplomatic negotiations. It was also, according to her old intelligence contacts, currently hosting several secret meetings between faction leaders trying to prevent an escalating conflict. Maya stared at her reflection in the darkened window. She had joined the academy to escape her past, to become someone normal. But the galaxy was heading toward another war, and despite her hopes, she was beginning to suspect that her peaceful student life was about to end. Her personal communicator chimed with an encrypted message. Maya stared at it for a long moment before opening it. Only a handful of people had access to this particular channel, and all of them were supposed to believe she was dead. The message was brief. "Package pickup required. Kepler-7. Your country needs you. Ghost." Ghost had been Maya's handler during her years with the Phantom Brigade, the only person who knew the full extent of her capabilities. If he was reaching out now, it meant the situation was far worse than the public reports indicated. Maya deleted the message and sat back in her chair. Tomorrow, she would board the transport to Kepler-7 with her classmates, playing the role of an eager student on her first real diplomatic assignment. But she knew that the reserved girl who had spent 3 years hiding in plain sight was about to become something else entirely. Outside her window, the stars seemed brighter than usual, as if the universe itself was preparing for what was to come. Maya Chen, the quiet student, closed her eyes and tried to hold on to this peaceful moment a little longer. Soon, the galaxy would remember why humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their ability to produce individuals like her, people who could become ghosts when the situation demanded it, striking from shadows with precision that turned the tide of wars. The reserved girl in class was about to remind everyone why humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through diplomacy or trade, but through the actions of individuals willing to stand between civilization and chaos no matter the personal cost. In the morning, she would pack her student materials and board the transport with her classmates. But tonight, Maya Chen began preparing for war. The transport ship Harmony's Edge docked with Kepler-7 station after a 3-day journey through hyperspace. Maya stood with her classmates at the observation deck, watching the massive diplomatic station grow larger in the viewports. The structure was a marvel of cooperative engineering, built by 17 different species and designed to accommodate the diverse environmental needs of hundreds of worlds. "It's incredible," Zara whispered beside her, her translucent skin glowing with excitement. "I can sense the energy patterns from dozens of different life forms." Maya nodded, but her attention was focused on the unusual number of military vessels maintaining position around the station. 3 Andromedal Alliance cruisers, 2 Vorthan Empire dreadnoughts, and several smaller ships from neutral worlds, all supposedly here for routine diplomatic meetings. Her trained eye noted the positioning of their weapon systems and the way they maintained clear firing lanes toward each other. "Students, gather around," called Professor Valdris, his tentacles organizing his notes with practiced efficiency. "Remember, you are here as observers only. You will attend designated diplomatic sessions, analyze negotiation techniques, and prepare reports on interspecies communication methods. Under no circumstances are you to interfere with actual diplomatic proceedings." Corex pushed through the group, his crystalline structure still bearing faint scars from their encounter the previous week. He had been unusually quiet during the journey, occasionally glancing at Maya with something that might have been wariness. "Professor, what if we witness something significant? Shouldn't we document important developments?" "You will document what you observe, but remember that many negotiations involve classified information. Your reports will be reviewed by Academy officials before submission." Professor Valdris's large eyes swept over the group. "Miss Chen, you've been particularly quiet. Do you have any questions about our objectives here?" Maya looked up from her datapad, where she had been reviewing the station's public layout while memorizing the restricted areas from her previous mission briefings. "No, Professor. I understand the assignment." What she didn't mention was the second encrypted message she had received that morning, containing intelligence that made her blood run cold. The Vorthan Empire had developed a new weapon capable of destabilizing entire star systems by triggering gravitational cascades. They planned to test it by destroying an uninhabited system near human space, but the cascade effects would spread, eventually reaching Earth itself. The weapon was somewhere on Kepler-7 disguised as diplomatic equipment. Maya's mission was to locate and neutralize it before the Vorthans could begin their demonstration. She had 72 hours before the weapon would be moved to its target location. As the students disembarked, Maya fell into step with the group while mentally cataloging security arrangements. Kepler-7's defense systems were impressive, but designed for external threats, not for someone who was already inside and knew how to move through the station's maintenance tunnels. Their first diplomatic session was a trade negotiation between the Etherian Collective and the Rigelian Commerce Guild. Maya sat in the back of the observation gallery, taking careful notes while scanning the room for potential intelligence assets. During her active service, she had worked with contacts throughout the galaxy, people who provided information in exchange for protection or payment. Halfway through the session, she spotted him. Commander Thress of the Andromedal Security Forces sat in the diplomatic section, officially listed as a military observer. Maya knew better. Thress ran one of the Alliance's most effective intelligence networks, and his presence here meant they were also aware of the Vorthan weapon. When the session ended, Maya lingered while her classmates filed out to lunch. She approached one of the refreshment stations and waited. Sure enough, Thress made his way over, his scaled features arranged in a casual expression. "Excuse me," he said in accented standard. "Are you one of the Academy students? I'm Commander Thress, military observer for the Alliance." Maya looked up with the shy smile she had perfected. Yes, sir. Maya Chen, first-year diplomatic studies. This is all so fascinating. Indeed it is. Thress selected a drink and leaned against the counter. Tell me, Miss Chen, what do you think of the current negotiations? From a student's perspective, of course. It was a careful probe. Maya pretended to consider the question, while noting the micro-expressions that confirmed Thress suspected her true identity. I think everyone seems more tense than the issues warrant. The trade agreements are relatively straightforward, but there's an undercurrent of fear that doesn't match the public discussions. Thress nodded slowly. Very perceptive. Perhaps you would be interested in attending tonight's cultural exchange dinner? Many of the delegates will be there in a more informal setting. It might provide valuable insights for your studies. That sounds wonderful, Maya replied, knowing that Thress was offering her a chance to observe the real power players outside of formal sessions. Should I inform Professor Valdris? I'll arrange it through proper channels. Thress finished his drink and moved to leave, then paused. Miss Chen? Be careful who you trust here. Not everyone is what they seem. After he left, Maya sat back down and opened her student journal, writing detailed observations about the morning's negotiations. To anyone watching, she was simply a dedicated student. But between the lines of her notes, she was planning her infiltration of the station's restricted areas. That afternoon's session focused on territorial disputes, and Maya was disturbed to see how close several species were to open conflict. The Vorthan's representative, a tall being with metallic skin and glowing red eyes, spoke eloquently about peace, while his body language suggested barely contained aggression. When he mentioned humanity's limited understanding of galactic realities, Maya felt her classmates shift uncomfortably. The human species, the Vorthan continued, has shown remarkable adaptability since joining our community. However, their youth as a spacefaring civilization sometimes leads to naive positions on complex issues. Perhaps it would be beneficial for them to observe rather than participate in matters requiring extensive experience. Corex leaned forward in his seat. Ambassador Vex raises an interesting point. Humans do seem to favor simplistic solutions to complicated problems. Maya kept her expression neutral while memorizing every detail of Ambassador Vex's appearance. According to her intelligence files, he was more than a diplomat. He was a senior operative in the Vorthan military's Special Projects Division. If anyone knew about the gravitational weapon, it would be him. After the session, Maya excused herself from dinner with her classmates, claiming she wanted to explore the station's cultural exhibits. Instead, she made her way to her assigned quarters and began preparing for her real mission. From her luggage, she retrieved items that appeared to be ordinary student supplies. The portable data processor was actually a sophisticated hacking device. Her journal contained microcircuits hidden in the binding. Her hair clips were lockpicks. Her meditation crystals, a gift from Zara, were miniature explosive charges. Maya changed into dark, form-fitting clothing and began transforming herself from a shy student into something far more dangerous. She tied her hair back severely, applied temporary tattoos that would help her blend in with station maintenance crews, and activated the neural inhibitors that would suppress her emotional responses. The transformation was more than cosmetic. As the inhibitors took effect, Maya felt the familiar cold clarity settle over her mind. Fear, doubt, and hesitation faded away, replaced by perfect focus on her mission objectives. This was the state that had allowed her to walk among enemies for months without breaking cover, to make decisions that saved millions of lives while sacrificing thousands. At 23 Ward Station time, when most of the diplomatic staff would be attending the cultural dinner, Maya slipped out of her quarters and into the maintenance tunnels that honeycombed Kepler-7's superstructure. She moved through the darkness with the fluid grace of someone who had done this countless times before, following memorized schematics toward the restricted diplomatic storage areas. The Vorthan weapon would be disguised as legitimate equipment, probably something large enough to contain the gravitational cascade generators, but innocent enough to pass security screening. Maya's mission was to locate it, analyze its specifications, and either disable it or gather enough intelligence for a targeted strike. As she navigated the tunnels, Maya's enhanced hearing picked up voices ahead. She froze, pressing herself against the cool metal walls as two figures passed through the corridor below. One was human, tall, muscular, wearing the uniform of a private security contractor. The other was Vorthan, his metallic skin gleaming in the dim light. "The device is ready for transport tomorrow," the Vorthan was saying. "Your human contacts have arranged the necessary clearances?" "Everything's in place," the human replied. "Once it reaches the test site, how long before we see results?" "The cascade will begin within hours of activation. The targeted system will be completely destroyed within 48 hours, and the gravitational waves will continue spreading. By our calculations, it will reach the human homeworld within 6 months. Maya's blood turned to ice, but her expression remained perfectly controlled. 6 months, not the years her intelligence briefings had estimated. That changed everything. If the weapon test succeeded, Earth would die, along with nearly 10 billion people. The two conspirators moved on, leaving Maya alone in the darkness with the knowledge that humanity's survival might depend on what she accomplished in the next few hours. She continued through the tunnels, but now her mission had evolved beyond gathering intelligence. She had to stop the weapon from ever leaving Kepler-7, no matter what the cost. As she approached the restricted storage area, Maya began planning not just for infiltration, but for war. The reserved girl from the academy was gone, replaced by humanity's deadliest weapon, someone trained to do whatever was necessary to protect her species from extinction. The real mission was about to begin. Maya reached the restricted storage area at 0130 station time. The security systems were impressive. Biometric scanners, motion detectors, and automated sentries that could incapacitate intruders within seconds. For most people, these defenses would be impenetrable. But Maya had spent 2 years studying Kepler-7 systems during her previous mission, and she knew every weakness in the network. She attached her data processor to a maintenance panel and began the careful work of creating false readings in the security grid. The process took 12 minutes, long enough to make her nervous, but fast enough to avoid the next scheduled patrol. When she was finished, the sensors would show an empty corridor while she moved freely through the storage bays. The weapon wasn't hard to find once she knew what to look for. Bay 7 contained a collection of Vorthan cultural artifacts that were scheduled for transport to an anthropological research station. The central piece was a massive sculpture called Harmony of the Spheres, a beautiful arrangement of metallic orbs that supposedly represented the gravitational dance of star systems. Maya approached the sculpture and activated the microscanner hidden in her hair clip. The readings confirmed her worst fears. The artistic orbs contained gravitational field generators powerful enough to tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. The elegant base-housed quantum processors that could calculate the precise cascade effects needed to chain react across multiple star systems. She had found humanity's death warrant disguised as art. Maya was preparing to plant her explosive charges when footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. She quickly shut down the scanner and pressed herself against the wall beside the bay entrance. 2 Vorthan guards entered, speaking in their native language about routine security checks. They spent several minutes examining the sculpture, running their own scans, and checking the transport seals. Maya remained motionless, controlling her breathing while calculating the precise moment she would need to strike if they discovered her presence. But the guards completed their inspection and left without detecting the intrusion. When their footsteps faded, Maya resumed her work. The explosive charges she carried weren't powerful enough to destroy the weapon completely, but they could damage the delicate quantum processors and make the device inoperable. She was placing the second charge when her data processor chimed with an incoming message. Maya Chen, step away from the device and turn around slowly. The voice belonged to Ambassador Vex, and it came from the bay entrance. Maya froze, her hand inches from the sculpture's base. In her peripheral vision, she could see 3 armed figures silhouetted against the corridor lighting. I had wondered if the reports of your death were exaggerated, Vex continued, his metallic voice carrying a note of satisfaction. The legendary ghost of the Phantom Brigade, reduced to playing student at a diplomatic academy. How disappointing. Maya slowly raised her hands and turned around. Ambassador Vex stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 human mercenaries, including the one she had seen in the maintenance tunnels. Their weapons were drawn but not yet aimed at her, suggesting they wanted her alive for questioning. Ambassador, Maya said quietly, falling back into her reserved student persona. I think there's been some mistake. I was just curious about the cultural exhibits. Vex laughed, the sound echoing off the metallic walls. Even now you maintain the pretense. Do you think we haven't been monitoring human intelligence activities? We know about the Phantom Brigade's operations, and we know about your particular talents. The question is, how much does your government know about our project? Maya let confusion cross her features. I don't understand. I'm just a student. If I've done something wrong by being here, I apologize. Perhaps you could escort me back to my quarters. Search her, Vex ordered one of the mercenaries. Look for surveillance equipment, weapons, anything that confirms her identity. The human approached Maya cautiously, clearly aware of her reputation even if he didn't believe she was dangerous in her current state. He was thorough but not particularly skilled, finding her obvious equipment while missing the more sophisticated items woven into her clothing and accessories. Data processor, lockpicks, some kind of scanner, he reported. Standard spy gear, but nothing military grade. Of course not, Vex said. She's too professional to carry anything that would definitively prove her identity. But her presence here, combined with her specific interest in this particular exhibit, tells us everything we need to know. Maya maintained her confused student expression while rapidly analyzing her tactical situation. 3 enemies, all armed, in a confined space with limited cover. The mercenaries were competent but overconfident. Vex was physically imposing but relied too heavily on his technological advantages. She could disable all 3 within 15 seconds if she acted now, but that would blow her cover completely and alert the entire station to the threat. I think you've made a mistake, she said, letting a tremor enter her voice. I really am just a student. I can show you my academy identification, my class schedule, anything you need to verify who I am. Vex moved closer, his red eyes studying her face with predatory intensity. The academy records were very easy to falsify, weren't they? A new identity, a quiet background, all designed to let humanity's most dangerous operative disappear into civilian life. But you couldn't stay hidden when your species' survival was at stake. Maya's heart rate remained steady despite the revelation that her cover had been compromised from the beginning. My species' survival? I don't understand what you're talking about. The gravitational cascade weapon, Vex said, gesturing toward the sculpture. A device capable of destroying entire star systems by triggering controlled gravitational collapses. We plan to demonstrate its effectiveness on an uninhabited system near human space. The cascade effects will reach Earth within 6 months, providing your government with ample time to surrender before your homeworld is consumed. The mercenary behind Maya shifted nervously. Sir, should we be discussing operational details in front of her? She won't be reporting to anyone, Vex replied coldly. Miss Chen, or should I say Captain Chen, will be joining us on the transport to the test site. Her expertise with human military protocols will help us anticipate their response to our demonstration. After Earth's destruction, she'll serve as a liaison to the surviving human colonies. Maya felt the familiar cold clarity settle over her mind as her neural inhibitors fully activated. The shy student facade was no longer sustainable, but she could still use Vex's assumptions against him. "You're insane," she said, allowing real emotion to creep into her voice. "Earth has 10 billion people. You can't just murder an entire world to make a political point." "Politics is the art of convincing others to accept your will through the implied threat of consequences," Vex said. "We prefer to make those consequences explicit. The other species will understand that resistance to Vortan authority results in extinction." Maya lowered her hand slowly as if accepting defeat. "What guarantee do I have that you'll honor your agreement about the surviving colonies?" "None whatsoever," Vex replied with brutal honesty. "But cooperation will ensure that some humans survive the transition to our new galactic order. Resistance guarantees complete extinction." Maya nodded as if considering his words, while actually calculating attack angles and weapon positions. When she moved, it was with the fluid precision that had made her legendary among intelligence operatives throughout the galaxy. Her first target was the mercenary directly behind her. She spun low, sweeping his legs while simultaneously grabbing his weapon arm and applying a joint lock that snapped his elbow. The gun fell from his nerveless fingers as he collapsed, and Maya caught it before it hit the floor. The second mercenary was raising his weapon when Maya's stolen gun put 2 rounds center mass. He dropped instantly, his finger tightening reflexively on the trigger and sending wild shots into the ceiling. Vex was fast for his size, drawing a plasma pistol and firing at where Maya had been standing. But she was already rolling behind the sculpture, using its bulk as cover while she acquired her final target. The ambassador's shots scored the metal surface, but the gravitational generators were too well shielded to be damaged by small arms fire. "Impressive," Vex called out, his voice carrying grudging respect. "The reports of your abilities were not exaggerated. But you're trapped in here with me, and my weapon will cut through that sculpture eventually. Surrender now, and I'll make your death quick." Maya remained silent, counting the shots and calculating the plasma pistol's charge level. When Vex's weapon finally ran low on power, she moved again. She came around the sculpture's left side, firing 3 precise shots that forced Vex to dive for cover behind a storage crate. While he scrambled for position, Maya reached into her hair and activated the explosive charges she had already planted. She had exactly 30 seconds before they detonated, and the blast would destroy both the weapon and anyone still in the storage bay. "You're going to kill yourself to stop us?" Vex called out, apparently having recognized the activation signals. "How typically human. Pointless self-sacrifice instead of rational negotiation." "Not pointless," Maya replied, her voice carrying none of the fear or uncertainty from her student persona. "And not suicide. I've done the calculations." She sprinted toward the bay entrance, firing suppressing shots to keep Vex pinned down. At exactly 15 seconds from detonation, she dove through the doorway and rolled into the corridor beyond. The blast door began sliding shut automatically, triggered by the explosion sensors. Maya had 12 seconds to reach minimum safe distance when she heard Vex's roar of rage from inside the bay. He had realized that the charges weren't just meant to destroy the weapon. They were positioned to create a controlled implosion that would contain the blast within the storage area while sending gravitational shockwaves through the sculpture itself. The weapon designed to destroy star systems was about to have its own gravitational field generators turned against it in a perfectly calculated cascade failure. Maya was 30 meters down the corridor when the charges detonated. The blast was surprisingly quiet, but she felt the station shudder as conflicting gravitational fields tore the weapon apart at the quantum level. Emergency alarms began wailing throughout Kepler-7 as the computer systems detected massive energy fluctuations. She had done it. The weapon was destroyed, Earth was safe, and the Vorthon Empire's plans for galactic domination had suffered a critical setback. But Maya's mission wasn't complete yet. She needed to escape the station and report back to human intelligence before the Vorthons could recover from this blow. Moving quickly through the maintenance tunnels, Maya made her way back toward the student quarters. Around her, she could hear security teams responding to the explosion, their voices confused and angry as they tried to understand what had happened. By the time they reached the storage bay and found Vex's body, she would be just another frightened student awakened by the alarms. As she climbed back through her dormitory window, Maya caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. The neural inhibitors were wearing off, allowing emotion to return to her features. She looked tired, drained by the transformation back from humanity's deadliest weapon into a reserved girl who just wanted to study diplomacy in peace. But she also looked satisfied. Earth was safe. Her people would survive. And tomorrow, Maya Chen would attend her morning classes, take careful notes, and continue playing the role of a shy student who preferred books to social interaction. The galaxy had been reminded tonight that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their ability to produce individuals willing to stand between civilization and chaos, no matter the personal cost. The reserved girl in class had just saved 10 billion lives, and nobody would ever know her name. Maya Chen smiled quietly, closed her curtains against the stars, and began preparing for another day as just another student at the Academy of Worlds.